Mic check, mic check. I guess one of the strangest parts about losing a pet is how unprepared we are regarding, how we will behave and how we might want or need to be treated when we're grieving. Everybody seems to have advice, or they simply don't know what to say and don't really say anything. People tell us that we'll be okay. They tell us time heals. They tell us we can always get another pet. But very few people ever stop and ask us what we actually needed. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Because when I was going through it, when I lost my amazing cat Dublin back in 2019, in December of 2019, I didn't know what to do with myself or what to tell other people about what I was going through, or what I thought was reasonable to expect from any other people regarding my loss. I was alone. And then the pandemic started just a few months later. And I also lost my mom March of 2020. And it was just quite, it was all at once. And that's where all of this began. I was in the middle of several storms all converging into one and had no idea what to do. It was truly an alien world that I found myself in. I'm sorry if this video will have some, strong or harsher tones to it, but I just want to kind of talk candidly about my experience. So this alien world consisted of having to put my cat down while my mom was dying. Pretty much right after I said goodbye to Dublin, my mom went into the hospital as her cancer was becoming far more aggressive. She also had a little kitten at home named Wally, who was basically now all alone. So I would go to her house after I got off at work and be there with her kitten all night long, then go see her in the hospital, then go to work, and then go do this cycle all over again, all the while, not having Dublin with me. And there was someone who looked after her house in the mornings, and that person is who eventually took Wally home and gave him a good home. That was her kitten. Once my mom passed in March of 2020, just days before California went on lockdown because of the pandemic, there was no funeral for my mom. I was alone at home. My home no longer had Dublin in it. My job put me on work furlough. So I was just basically alone at home with that emptiness. Couldn't even get a hug from anyone because, everybody was scared to leave their home or touch anybody. So that was the alien world that I found myself on. And that's, that's the inception of when I began the rescue mission, I guess, that became Next Level Pets. And over the next few months, I made myself a promise. I wanted to create a place that I wish had existed for every one of us after we lose our best friend. When I call Next Level Pets a rescue mission, I mean that it began more as me searching for anything useful, anything valuable that I could piece together to help me heal. So it was more like a do-it-yourself search and rescue mission, me just trying to find bits of anything that could help me heal. What I wasn't able to find, I ended up having to build and create it for myself. And that's a place where people didn't have to explain why they were crying over a dog or apologize for missing a cat or feel embarrassed that months or even years later their heart still hurt, but instead find a place where they can find direction, action, and healing. Over the last few years, I've spoken with grieving pet parents from all over the world. I've heard stories of overwhelming guilt, stories of loneliness, stories of people questioning every decision they made regarding their pet, especially in the last few moments. Stories of people who felt just like nobody understood the depth of their pain. Stories that sounded a lot like my own. And something became incredibly clear to me, that even though every grief journey is different, nobody should have to walk it alone. No one should have to find themselves on that same alien world that I did. Because trust me, you probably walked past someone who is on that world today and didn't even know it. When I actually finished the Forever in Hearts program and began working with clients for real. I'd say 25% of my clients were people I would actually just meet in my daily life. Natural conversation would reveal that, they had just, lost a pet. Somebody would say, I'd be talking to someone, they'd say, I'm sorry, I'm texting my mom, we just had to put our dog down yesterday. Or, any variety of just random encounters. And my point is that that alien world has new arrivals all the time. Today, though, I want to make this more about hearing from you. So I want you out there to help me build a new world that isn't so alien. A place where anyone who has lost a pet can feel safe and welcome and get the support and the guidance that they need. So I'm going to turn it over to you. What did you need most? Did you just need space? Did you need to just, fall apart and break into a million pieces? Did you just need to be allowed to be numb or scream? Did you need to be just in the quiet company of a friend or a loved one? Did you need to maybe tell someone the entire life history of your pet? All the amazing things you did together, the stupid and silly routines and shared behaviors and daily life together. Did you need some guidance from someone to think for you and tell you what to do so you just didn't have to think for yourself about anything? So just please share your experience with me and in the comments, and what would have helped you most when you said your final goodbye. Another thing I'd like to hear from you is, what was something that nobody talks about, regarding pet loss? What surprised you the most in your experience? What hurt the most? What was the scariest or even easiest part of saying goodbye? Because sometimes there are moments of joy and beauty in the middle of loss that can surprise us, because, we would think that beauty and joy have no place in loss. So what was something that, nobody warned you about? Is there anything that you would tell yourself then that could have helped in, the first day, the first week, the first year after saying goodbye? Also, maybe something for the people that were around you. Who helped, who didn't, what words healed, what words hurt, maybe silence was the best. Is there anything that you could share with someone who has a friend or relative that just said farewell to a pet, to help them understand how to support or be there for, somebody in grief? That's a really big part of this too. A lot of my friends knew how important Dublin was to me, but simply didn't know what to say or do. One of my friends, and I was really suspicious and angry for her asking me this at first. She asked me for, oh, can I have a photo of Dublin? And, the reason it, upset me so much, and I don't know, freaked me out, is I was worried that she was going to try to find like, a kitten, like some form of Dublin surrogate replacement and give them to me. But what she actually did was find someone who knits, crochet, I don't know, knits. And that person made me a custom knit stuffed animal with Dublin's coloring. And it wasn't anything extravagant, but it was such a beautiful gesture that meant the world to me. And one more thing, in your experience, was there any moment or, experience specifically that you can identify maybe as some form of turning point? Was there anything or series of things that helped you breathe again? Where you could begin to think of your pet and smile. And if there were tears present, they would be, tears of love and gratitude. When and how did your healing begin? And if this has not begun, maybe can you articulate what you think is holding your heart hostage? What has changed in your, grief journey? And where did that change come from? What has given you hope? And what still gives you hope? Looking back, what would you tell yourself? Because I don't believe the most valuable part of today's video is anything I've said. What I'm looking forward to and what I believe is what's about to happen in the comments. Somewhere, someone just lost their best friend maybe this morning. Maybe they're crying while they watch this video. Maybe they're feeling guilty. Maybe they think they're completely alone. Maybe they've searched dozens of videos looking for someone who understands, and today they found us. So I'm asking you something that has nothing to do with algorithms. I just want you to share your story, share your wisdom, share what helped, share what hurt, share what you wish somebody had told you back then, and then read somebody else's comment, reply to someone, encourage someone, let someone else know that you understand what they're going through. Because, healing doesn't happen because one person has all the answers. Healing happens when people realize that they don't have to go through this alone. This burden is not something that they have to carry by themselves. And that's what I hope Next Level Pets becomes in its entirety. Not just my community, but our community. A place where all grieving pet parents can come and know that no matter how broken they feel today, that somebody here understands. So thank you for helping us build that together. I'll see you in the next video.